Welcome to Ordinary Teachers and Students, where we get to hear teachers and students tell us their extraordinary stories. My hope is that through this podcast, ordinary teachers from around the world can relate to the stories they hear and get some timely suggestions and ideas. My name is Alan Cheng, and I'm a life coach as well as a university lecturer. My vision is to make life coaching a part of every school. Hello, I'm delighted to now welcome our first guest, Elaine Shek. So Elaine is the current EAL Coordinator, that's English as an additional language, at an academy in Hong Kong. Elaine was born in Hong Kong, but moved to Edinburgh in Scotland when she was only 9 months old. I worked with Elaine for a few years and had the chance to see quite a number of her lessons. Elaine is an elegant and eloquent lady. And the reason I mention that is because I was always impressed at how Elaine could manage her class without having to raise her voice. Let's see if we can learn how she does that. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you, Alan. It's a very interesting introduction. I think you met me now, see me in my classes. I'm not as elegant as you think I am. I do raise my voice.
Maybe we can dive deep into that later. But anything do you want to tell our audience about who you are? Anything else?
Well, I think you've said most of it. So yeah, I've been in Hong Kong. Can you believe it? 18 years now. This year is my 18th year in Hong Kong. I can't believe it. I still feel sometimes still like a newcomer here. But yeah, originally from Edinburgh. The accent is a bit weird because it's my accent has a bit of an American accent to it because I lived and worked in America for a few years. So I feel I can't seem to shake that off, which is very weird. But sometimes, especially when I go back home to Edinburgh, you know, the Scottish accent comes back, but it's not that strong. I think because I didn't have a really strong accent to start with. I think in Edinburgh where we were, you know, it was just kind of very mild. That part of Edinburgh where we were. That's why, some people said it was the posh part of Edinburgh, but
I don't think I knew you were from Edinburgh when I first spoke to you. And I mean, accents are fascinating. I have the similar thing where people don't really know where I'm from when they listen to me.
Right.
And then I tell them I'm like kind of from the posher part of Merseyside, which is close to Liverpool. Anyway, Elaine.
I think,
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it's like people say, you know, living in Hong Kong, you get like a confused accent as well.
Oh, yeah,
right?
you do. Yeah.
You're mixing all different cultures and accents together. So I don't know, you come up with, I don't know, some people call it like an international accent.
Yeah. Because you have to adjust it to your students just to make sure they understand you, right?
Right. That's it. Yeah.
Right. So my first question for all my guests is, what got you into teaching in the first place?
I think it was definitely my English teacher. Like she was a great teacher. This was back in secondary school, and it was so back then.
Not so many years ago.
Not so many years ago. Back then, I think it was like kind of like year 9, S3. She was a lovely sort of feisty lady, and you could tell she really had a passion for English literature. And, you know, I learned my Shakespeare through her. And I just thought, you know, she's wonderful. She's amazing. And I think she was the first person that sort of set up that little spark within me. But then my mom always told me that she said when I was younger, I always loved playing the teacher. And I would always sit in her room and have a book in my hand. And I loved reading out loud to my imaginary students. And I would play the teacher. So I don't know, maybe it was always there, it was hidden. But weirdly enough, when I went to university, when I chose my course to study at university, I didn't think of being a teacher. I actually wanted to go into interpreting and translating.
What was your degree in then?
French and Russian. But don't ask me how to speak any words because it's too long and I don't use it anymore. But it was weird because I guess the more I did of that in my course, the more I hated interpreting and translating. But I am never doing this.
Ah,
I couldn't see
mm,
myself sitting at a desk,
mm,
the
mm,
dictionaries or whatever you
mm,
use
mm,
and
mm, mm,
translate.
mm,
So it was a friend at university. It was actually at our final year of
mm.
university where she said to me that she was applying for her, PGCE. And then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was like, are you interested in teaching? And then she was like, yeah. And then so that sort of got me thinking. I was like, oh, I
Mm,
think I was interested in teaching before. And then I started
mm.
looking into it. And that's sort of how I got into it. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm so glad your friend did tell you about applying for BGCE. Yeah. I think the more important question is what's made you
Mhm.
stay. So obviously we've seen lots of teachers leave the profession maybe after the first couple of years. So I'm really curious, like what's made you stay in this profession?
I think it really is my love of teaching and my love of being with the students.
Yeah.
Like I've always said that, even if, the different roles change, I love just being in the classroom with them. And I
Yeah.
think that's what it
Yeah.
is. So, even now, my roles kind of like change from before.
Mm.
I still teach because
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I asked for. I think it's important to be in the classroom to really see what's going on and what's
Mm, mm,
happening and to be with it.
mm, 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 mm.
And so, and it's just very different every single day with
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
child in every class, right? So, I don't know. For me, it's just being with the kids. I just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can really feel your love for students because like the students at our school that we taught at together, they loved you so
Hmm.
much. I mean, it seems like it's reciprocal. They can feel your love for teaching and then they really return that in their love for you, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your current role then? So you said it's a little bit different. So you still do a
Okay.
bit of teaching, right? Yeah.
I do actually. I still do quite a lot. So my role. So when we last worked together, I was the English teacher,
Yeah,
teaching
yeah, yeah,
English
yeah,
classes, different levels. So at the moment, my role is more a support role. So English
yeah.
as an additional language. So basically, what I do is I work with students who need that extra support in
Ah,
English.
right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I do is I pull them out of the regular classes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we identify them. Their teachers identify them. I do an assessment with them, and I see, and then I pull them out. Usually it's about twice a week, which is not enough, but
Mm,
better than
mm.
nothing.
Yep.
And then I work with them in my own little classroom
Yep.
here, as you can see.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and so depending on what they need, usually it's probably the foundational skills because that's
Mm,
where they're lacking in. And it's trying to help them get to a certain level so
mm,
they can really access the curriculum,
mm, mm, mm.
and so it was interesting because when I first started this role, I wasn't quite sure of what to do or how to do it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
really, grew into this role and sort of made it my own. And actually, when I first started here, I was the only person for the entire school, that's primary and secondary, and it was impossible
Wow. Yeah.
to teach both primary and secondary, and everyone needed help.
Mm,
But
mm.
now, this is my sixth year here, and we've grown to three members, including
Mm.
myself, of the department.
Okay.
We would like more, but
Mm.
I guess that's something
Oh,
we're always asking for.
you could put
Um,
out a yeah.
yeah, so, but I really, really enjoy it. And for me, it's seeing the growth in the students, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that
seeing how
must be
they've
really
really
helpful for
grown.
you
So
to
yeah,
keep going, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I really enjoy it. Yeah.
How does the system work then? Is it that you have a way to identify these students to pull out, or do teachers just recommend them to you?
So, I've created like a Google form.
Yeah.
So, with, specific questions, and teachers will fill that in. And
Yeah.
then, so if they see a student struggle, particularly in writing, they'll write that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah. Yeah.
student seems, might, spoken language is fine, but struggles with the academic language. So we would look at that, and then we'd get in touch with the teacher and ask them more questions. And then we
Mm,
would take that student out and we
mm.
would do an assessment with them.
Right.
And then
Right.
based on our assessment, we will see if they have that need.
Hmm.
Or sometimes it's also not whether they have that need or not is actually whether we also have enough manpower,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
of course,
to
yeah.
help them, because
Mm,
we do have a lot of students who require support. But at the moment, we can only really focus on those who are really struggling.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, sure.
ideally, if we had more people, yes, then we could really, help
Yeah.
others as well. But unfortunately,
Mm-mm.
that's the way it works.
Sure, sure. So I think
Yeah.
it's really nice that you can work one to, is it normally one to one or is it small groups that you work
Actually,
with?
no, we do small groups, small groups.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
my room is quite small, but it's actually very nice. It's both my room and my office, and I have a little
Yeah.
round table. I call it our pizza, and so everyone has
Mm.
one slice of pizza.
Oh, very
So we can
clever.
sit six people. We can sit
Mm.
six people here. Most of the other classes are pretty small too. There is one teacher, her class, she takes maybe about 10, but she has said to me that it doesn't work as well when it's a bigger group.
Mm,
It works
mm,
better.
mm.
And that's what I
Sure.
said. Ideally, actually, I think what works nice is about just 4 to 5 students,
Yeah.
because then you
Yeah.
can really help them and see what they need supporting,
Yeah, sure.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, sure.
Not
So
at
for the
all.
next
Yeah.
part, I just wanted to dive deeper into any area of teaching or education that you're most passionate about or fascinated about, any particular areas that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Actually, in the past few years, I really got into, I don't know if you've heard about it. You probably have. It's called the science of reading. And
Okay.
I think I got into it because, in my role, I support a lot of students who need help.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of students who really struggled with reading and
Mm.
writing. Some of them were actually diagnosed with dyslexia. Some of them they
Yeah.
weren't. And I was like, I just felt that whatever I did before, it didn't work.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know how to get through to them to help them to be able to read or write. And it was actually during COVID. I was online and I was
Mm.
searching and I came across science of reading. So I looked into it and I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is it. And it was as if it was a big,
Oh,
huge light
wow.
bulb moment.
Yeah.
And so over the past few years, I've done, some online courses and I've researched about it. And I thought, this is the way. Now, under science of reading is a big branch, right?
Yeah.
And they have something called Scarborough's rope. And
Mm.
Scarborough's rope is basically, it tells you everything that you need to be able to read.
Mm.
So say, for example, a student, um, maybe they can't comprehend a text.
Mm.
Now, it could be that maybe they just don't understand the words. But according to the rope, we can go back. So if it's comprehension they're struggling with, we have to ask ourselves, what is it? Are they struggling with fluency? If
Mm.
not, is it vocabulary they're struggling with?
Mm.
Or is
Mm.
it background knowledge? Or is it,
Mm. Mm.
language structures? And it can go all the way back. And what it leads back to is the basic word recognition. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
talking like phonics, phonemic awareness, the
Yeah.
sounds.
Yeah.
So this really got me thinking, and I researched and then found different programs and stuff. And then so I brought it into our school with the
Mm.
primary students, and I started teaching them. And I thought, this is the way to teach them, to get them
Mm.
to be able to read and write. And so I've been using it for the past couple of years. And I have to say, I really, really see progress. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is the way.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, science of reading is all about phonics. It's not. It
Mm.
may start with phonics and phonemic awareness, but then you move on. One of my teachers with some of the upper years, she's working more on comprehension or vocabulary,
Mm.
or so different areas like that. But it's a huge big branch, and it's a huge big body of research that
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
people think, oh, it's a fad. It's not. It's probably
Mm.
about 30, 40 years old. It goes
Right.
back a
Right.
long way.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And but when I first found out about this, I was so fascinated.
Mm.
And then it really, developed my passion into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
so I did more PD on it for myself. And then actually I brought it into our school and I did some workshops with the teachers as well.
Yeah.
Because I thought everyone needs to know this to help their
Yeah.
students.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
the way to
It
help
sounds
them. Yeah.
fascinating. Because it
It's really
seems
good.
like
I
a
mean, I could go on forever, but
it seems no, we have forever. But it seems like a very systematic way of helping the students, like kind of identifying their problems and then helping them?
It absolutely is. I think the problem is that many times, we always well, particularly in my school, we talk about inquiry and stuff.
Mm,
And I think sometimes teachers get the wrong idea of what inquiry is, and they tend to just let their students do everything. And it's
mm,
like, but you still have to guide them. You still have to actually do that explicit
mm,
teaching first
mm, mm,
to make
mm,
sure they get it before you let go. And
mm,
I think this with the structured literacy part is that it is about systematic, explicit teaching
mm.
of, the different phonics or whatever it is. And, I know that once you do that, that you see sort of the light bulbs go off
Mm,
in these
mm,
students'
mm,
heads.
mm,
They think
mm.
this is the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like scaffolding, isn't it? Like you build for them.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And each, the program I follow, like each lesson builds on the next. And it's always, the big thing about it is about, it's spiraling, right?
Mm,
It's like
mm, mm.
reviewing each time. So, and that really helps it stick in their memory as
Yeah,
well. And
sure,
it's
sure.
practice,
Yeah.
lots
Okay.
of
It
practice.
it it, it sounds brilliant. So if I were a teacher out there listening to this, like how would I go about starting to learn about it? Of course, maybe they can approach you, right? But how how else can they learn
Um,
about it?
I think first, Google it up first. Just
Just the
look into
science of
science of
reading.
reading. You
Okay.
will find a lot of information. That's
Yeah.
how I did. And then you would be able to, from there, look into different specific websites. And
Would
and
you have a
then
few to share
it'll
with
just
us? Maybe if you
um
don't mind sharing a couple
yeah,
with me.
actually, and there's some podcasts too. Now there's
Mm,
one called Amplify,
amplify.
Amplify. Um,
Yeah.
by the way, all these are American. I haven't found any
Okay.
British ones yet, but they're really, really excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me just take a look. So Amplify is one big one. They have a website, but they also have a podcast.
Yeah.
Um, the
I can
other
definitely
one,
include this in like any links that you might have or podcast recommendations into the show
sure,
notes. Yeah.
yeah, the Amplify one, the podcast actually says Amplify the Science of Reading the Podcast. So
Mm.
if you look that up, that would be
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you
very
so
good.
much for that.
And a good one actually to get teachers started, it's called the Six Shifts,
Okay.
SHIFTS.
Yeah.
And actually they came out with a book first.
Mm, mm, mm.
And now they made, and that podcast, they're only about, each podcast is only about 10 minutes long for that one. And that's a very good one to actually start off with.
Mm, mm,
It
mm.
tells you how to make that shift from, what they call balanced literacy to the science of reading, to structured
Right.
literacy.
Right. Sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Would you
So,
recommend that
that's
it's
a very
more
good one.
for primary teachers or
I
secondary,
would
possibly
say,
too?
I think it's for all.
Mm,
Now, probably possibly for primary teachers first, if, they're teaching students phonics, phonemic awareness,
mm,
all that.
mm.
But I would say, like, even in our secondary, we have many students who come into us who don't have those foundational skills, and we actually have to work with them on that. And so
Yeah.
secondary students could need that
Okay.
too in order to help them to read. But later on, when they've done all that, when you're talking about comprehension or background knowledge or language
Mm.
structure, that all works for secondary too.
Right, right, right. Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure, sure. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Like, and
not at
honestly,
all.
I can tell from your energy and your passion how much you believe in this, and I think that's great.
Oh, I think like really, like I always say, oh, I mean, I know COVID wasn't a great thing, but the best thing that happened was that I found out about all this and I felt I learned a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, I was never taught this, and I just
Yeah,
felt,
yeah, yeah.
what have I been doing in the past? And I felt sorry for my students, in the past.
Mm,
But I thought
mm.
now there is actually a way that you can teach them that can actually help them to read and
Right,
write.
right,
And
right.
okay, people say, oh, is that just for students with dyslexia? No, it's not. It helps
Mm,
everyone,
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
everyone.
Do you know
So,
what? You
but
should do
yeah.
some workshops or webinars for teachers, you know.
I did some for my own school here. Actually, interestingly enough, I did do another webinar. It was for I forget their name now. It was for a company anyway. It was kind of like this. It was a chat with another person,
Yeah.
and they were talking about Scarborough's rope as well. So
Okay,
yeah.
I'll get you into that, you know. Right. Are you ready for the next section, the quick fire questions?
Sure.
So for this
Okay.
part, it's
Sure.
simply try to be concise. One word answers are fine. One sentence maybe max,
Okay.
unless it's really, really interesting, something that you want to talk about. Yeah? You
Okay.
ready?
Sure.
Okay, so
Sure.
how would
Yep.
your
Off you go.
students describe you?
Mm, knowledgeable,
Mm,
funny,
mm.
quirky at times, um, organized,
How about your colleagues?
organized.
Mm,
This is harder. Organized. I think they'll say knowledgeable as well.
mm. Yeah.
Kind.
Um, yeah, good. How about your favorite go-to activity in the classroom?
My favorite go-to activity, I think at the moment, it's all kind of related to the science of reading thing. There is an
Mm.
online um, blending board that I always use. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
online and it's called the blending board. And so when we've taught something or we're practicing something, I go onto it straight away and I put it up for the students and they look at it and they read, you know. So
Mm,
that would be my
mm.
what I
Okay.
go to. Yeah.
Actually, that was my next question. My next question was like the online tool or resources that you use most frequently. Would you
Okay.
say it's that?
Yeah, definitely that one. It's a
Yeah,
blending board.
blending board. Okay.
I'm not sure
And
if I'm allowed to name names here because there is a specific name to it. Am I allowed to?
yeah, I guess, I mean,
Right.
it's my podcast. And I mean, there are no rules, I guess.
Okay, right.
I
Yeah.
set the
Okay.
rules.
So it's called UFLI, UFLI. Is actually from the University of Florida Literacy Institute. And I'm going to say
Right,
this. This was where I got into the science of reading because they
right.
had been offering free online classes about how to teach students online. And it was through that I got into all of
Mm.
this.
Ah, so
So
you
you can
fly
look that
from
up.
the University
Yeah.
of Florida, right?
Florida Literacy Institute. Yeah. They're
Literacy
amazing. I have
Institute.
to say. Yeah.
Sure. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. And do you think you can share maybe one funny, strange, or scary or touching moment that happened in the classroom? So you've had so many years of teaching in the classroom.
You will know this one.
Oh,
This was
okay.
back when we taught together. So back then, I don't know if you remember, I decided to get my eyebrows
Oh,
done.
yeah, I remember you told
Oh.
me about this. Please share, please share.
Yeah, so I decided, all in the name of beauty. I got my eyebrows done and I mistimed it. So I thought that by the time we came back to school, it was after Chinese New Year holidays. I remember that they would be fine. But no, when I came back, they were still really dark and horrible and fake looking. And I was so embarrassed. And I remember when I went into the classrooms to teach, I mean, the kids, they were really nice about it, to be honest. I just had students come up to me and say, Miss Shek, did you do something to your eyebrows? And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then I tried to joke it off with them, but they were really good. But my point about that is that I actually used that as a teaching moment. So I used that. And
Yeah.
I remember, I forget which year level it was, but we were writing diaries.
Mm,
So I
mm,
used that. So right in front of them, I was like, okay, let's write a diary. So I was like, how do we write diaries? And I was trying
mm,
to get them, to show more rather than,
mm.
tell. So
Yeah.
I wrote it right in front of them and I wrote about my eyebrows and how I felt. And I'll tell you, that was the time where I got the best writing out of them. I think maybe
Mm,
they saw my eyebrows and they saw my piece of writing and then they thought we could do it. I got really amazing pieces of them that time. So
mm.
that I thought, okay, I might have been embarrassed, but at least I got some good work out of it.
Yeah, no,
So
actually,
that was a really fun teaching moment.
there's lots of things there because I mean, I think what makes you a great teacher is that you kind of change these moments into like teachable moments, and also
Right,
like that emotion because often in a classroom, um, like I don't mean to like overly generalize, but like many classrooms, like there's little emotion in the classroom. So when you
right,
like obviously you didn't intend to, but you added like humor, and I'm sure students probably remember that moment like long after they left your classroom. So I think there's lots of things within that moment that's really something for us to think about. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
one more question. Is any questions for me? Because obviously, as the host, often I'm the person asking questions.
Yeah. Do you miss teaching?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Like being in the
well,
classroom?
to clarify, I mean, right now I'm lecturing at university. I mean, I do still
Okay.
teach right now. But secondary school classroom teaching, yeah, I do miss it.
You do?
I think the part I miss the most is the relationships you build with the students. So I really
Yeah.
enjoyed like taking a class from like secondary four to secondary six. Those 3 years, like you really get to know the students and you like
Yeah.
it becomes classroom management is not a thing anymore because you kind of you don't need to manage them anymore and you yeah you just build this bond with them which is very special I would say yeah okay so just one final question would be um
Sure.
obviously you've had many years of experience but I just want you to visualize when you were first teaching when that first year like when you were about to embark on your teaching career what advice would you give to that fresh graduate Elaine?
I think it would be not to worry too much about what other people think of you because
Mm,
I don't know if that's with everyone or if it was just me, but I just felt I focused too much on, oh no, what will he or she think? Or, oh no, what will
mm,
this parent
mm,
think? And I just
mm,
think that it added more stress onto
mm,
you. And I think it was unnecessary. And I think,
mm,
just do your job, just be yourself, just teach to the best that you can. Like,
mm.
don't worry about other people. Yeah.
Was it like other colleagues or your students or
Um,
parents?
I think it was a bit of everything, just
Mm,
mixed in, being new and you just felt, oh, I've got to be like this person, or, oh no, this parent's like watching me and stuff. But like, you just try and be yourself and just don't let it get to you too much. And I think, yeah,
sure,
that's
sure.
what it is.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Elaine. And thank you so much for coming onto my podcast to share all
Not
your
at all. It was my
experiences. Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, great. And I'm sure our audience learned so much from you, and you are still very elegant and eloquent. And yeah, so thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
From the conversation with Elaine, I found out why she became such a great teacher. She loves learning and improving as a teacher. I mean, as such an experienced teacher, Elaine, I'm not saying you're old, just experienced, okay? But as such an experienced teacher, it would have been very easy for her to just say, yeah, I know it all. I'll just do it the way I've always done it. But no, she was very open to learning new ways to help her students improve their reading. And so to teach students better, we as teachers have to keep learning ourselves too. I hope you enjoyed listening to Elaine's extraordinary story. And please do join us again next time on Ordinary Teachers and Students.